Good evening, everybody. Sorry for being a little late. I may or may not have been absolutely asleep. Uh, just had to get a little bit of a nap in before today's stream. Um, so if you're new or you're unaware, these streams are basically just laid back and chill, where we just sit back and I read a novel that I wrote. The novel is Saga, Book One. Uh, and so far up to this point, we have our main character Mordred. She is a young mercenary living on kind of a shitty planet. Uh, and so far, we followed her as she did some minor jobs, along with a bigger job where she had to raid a uh, compound full of basically holy crusaders, uh, where she completed her task, but in the meantime, she got a death hug from a well meaning but excessively strong crusader, and she found herself on the hospital. Uh, the two talked. Um, she may have figured out who her mother was, but that's still kind of up in the air for right now. So, also, she by completing the mission, she pretty much got a acceptance into uh, an elite mercenary group. So that's where we're beginning in chapter 6. So I hope you all take care. Um, get, a nice warm drink, get nice and comfortable, uh, just because that's the point of these streams. Also, as always, we'll be reading about 4 chapters, and then we'll call it a day. Uh, so, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 6 Pink Pride. As Ross said, my stay at the medical facility was not long at all, though it seemed as if I was a long way from home. Apparently, the closest facility that the suits viewed as suitable was deep in Alliance territory. Now, I have taken a few trips off of Outlier, however, I never came this far. It was weird being so close to proper human civilization, as all the people acted too nice and were too clean. It all just felt way too fake. Since I was so far out, the hospital refused to take me anywhere near the war belt. I was forced to call for a ride, but it seems like Ross expected this, as when I called him up, he was already on his way. It was about an hour before Ross arrived, and during that time, I did what anyone in a hospital, well, anyone waiting in a hospital would do. I looked at the scenery for the first 5 minutes. It was space, so nothing too significant. Then I tried to read some of the outdated magazines they had on the tables, but they were either health or fashion shit, none of which interested me. They did have a TV, but that just seemed to be playing nothing but infomercials, aimed at selling faulty products to old people. It was no stretch of the imagination to say that I was bored as hell. By the time Ross arrived, I felt like I'd aged 60 years. I went over to the docks, expecting to see Ross in his shitty mass-produced Yord spacecraft, but much to my surprise, while Ross was there, a sleek uh, while Ross was there was also a sleek black ship with a pink racing stripe sitting where Ross's ship should have been. And next to Ross was a very intimidating woman. She was over 6 feet tall, had short brown curly hair, green eyes, and her face was riddled with scars. She wore what appeared to be a black flight suit that also had a pink stripe, along with a duster overcoat. Also black with a similar stripe. Compared to the small and nervous Ross, this woman stood there confidently, as if she owned the place. Though I didn't know much about her yet. I could tell that we would get along fine. The woman was quick to notice me, though Ross was still admiring the ship. And much to my enjoyment, she didn't alert Ross to my presence, allowing me to walk right up to him. Whenever he did turn to see me, it was clear he knew what was going to happen next, as he quickly braced himself. But for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to hurt him. Up, doot. There we go. Up. Not over this, so instead, I decided to give him a hug. I guess what this was the last thing he expected, because as soon as I let him go, he fell to the ground as if all of his muscles failed at the same time. Okay, that's just freaking adorable, the woman said. And here I thought you were gonna knock his lights out. I thought about it, but this guy did admit that he loved me, causing me to lose some sleep. But I guess I'm just feeling a little charitable today, I coolly said. Oh man, how I wish I was young again. Fun times, she said with a look of remembrance. I turned away from Ross, who was starting to get back to his feet, and looked at the woman. So I take it you are from Pink Pride? What tipped you off? Was it the black ship, or the large amount of pink? Well, the last one did make it more obvious, but it was mainly thanks to you having such a recognizable face, Alice Turner. Oh my, I should feel flattered. Or pissed that my PR team fucked up again. Problems for later, I guess. I take it you don't want to be famous or something? Well, yeah, who doesn't? But think about it, Missy. What is Pink Pride? A special operations mercenary organization? Correct? Exactly. And to effectively do our jobs, we should stay out of the spotlight. But because the more attention that is on us, the greater risk we're put in. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But, maybe you should cut your PR team a little slack? Oh? And why is that? She said in a playful tone. Well, officially, I shouldn't have seen the report you were in. But since it was a joint operation, which Ross helped manage, I may have taken a look at the files when we were hanging out. Ah, snooping on classified intel, huh? I think you're really gonna fit in well with us, she said, giving me a wink. Wait, you did what, Mordred? You were looking at my files? Ross said, after gathering himself. Yeah, well, yeah. You were taking forever in the bathroom, and I was bored. I don't care when you did it. How did you even know my password? Mordred, XO123. It's not that great of a password, man. Ross's face immediately went red. Okay, lucky guess. I should get you locked up for that. Alice patted his shoulder. Oh, come on. You know you won't. Anyways, let's get out of here. I hate hospitals. She made her way into the ship, and a very flustered Ross and I followed closely behind. Though the outside of the ship was sleek and clean, the inside was the polar opposite. Half-eaten food and trash were all over the place. Crusty clothes lined the floors, and there was a very putrid smell coming from the bathroom. Oh, hey, don't mind the mess. Haven't had a chance to clean since my last mission. And all that. I looked over at Ross, who shook his head, in a way that indicated that this is how her ship normally looked. Though I'm not one to keep a clean place myself, this was on another level. Just find a place to park it, and I'll be off shortly, Alice said, as if there was actually free space. Eventually, Ross and I found the most minor, disgusting spots near what appeared to be crusty socks. We sat down, trying to avoid breathing too much. Luckily for us, the trip would not take long at all. Along with providing internet connection across the Alliance, ArcNet also acts as a transportation system. In short, as long as there are two connected ArcNet transportation relays, it was possible for ships with proper modifications to instantly travel between two places. In a way, For a brief moment, you were uploaded into the network and then dumped out at the desired location. Though this system is generally safe, there have been circumstances where data changes occur, where things are modified, removed, or added. There was one story where a person's legs were replaced with spoons, which functioned perfectly as legs. The worst part is, I knew the story to be accurate, as I was hired to off the poor bastard. We were soon docked at the PP base, which is just a drifting satellite in neutral space. And much like Alice's ship, the outside looked sleek and friendly. The inside, however, well, saying it was a mess was an understatement. Luckily, there wasn't as much garbage laying around, though there definitely were old pizza boxes scattered concerningly high. Equipment of all sorts was scattered around the place. Guns and swords were casually placed on sofas, unused computers were used as an actual wall, and one part of the kitchen was literally covered in coffee makers. Despite their prestigious reputation, these guys were no better than mercs back on Outlier. I know it doesn't look that great, but this chaos is comfort to us, Alice said, stepping over what I hoped was an inactive landmine. With how precise our missions need to be, we all just like to cut back and say fuck it while we're chilling. Alright, I get that, but you guys have literal live explosives laying around. Isn't that really dangerous? Well, Alice started. We try to make those kind of things stay in the armory, but Raoul likes to place both active and inactive ones around to keep us on our toes, I guess. Has anyone been killed or injured because of that? No, not really. There is the odd close call now and again, but my people are better than that to let an explosive take them out. You make that seem so casual. Well, you need to. Our line of work is dangerous, and it's because of our skill that we are given such leeway. What kind of leeway exactly? That will be covered in the orientation. And when is that? Like about 30 seconds? We need to get into the situation room because we'll be talking about some juicy stuff. Ross chimed in. So I guess this is where I leave you then. Yup, can't have scrubs like you cramping our style, Alice said playfully. Well, Mordred, I'll talk to you later. Yeah, I'll try to if I remember, I responded coolly. Ah, okay then, Ross said as he started to head back to the docks. Obviously, I wouldn't let it end there. As something in me just had to do it, I ran up behind him and gave him a big ol' hug. Unlike before, he actually stayed together, but much to my surprise, he stepped forward, turned around, and embraced me in his arms. Like before, it felt warm and comforting, almost like a warm blanket in the early winter mornings. We looked into the eyes of each other, and my heart was beating really fast. Well, I really gotta go, Mo. I really do love you, though, he said sweetly. Yeah, we'll talk to you later, I said, feeling like an utter idiot. Ross eventually peeled me off of him and actually made his way to the docks, and I was just left there with my stomach feeling all weird, looking like an idiot. Goddamn young love. It's so precious, Alice said. Yeah, whatever, I responded. Not up for this whole shit show again. Can we just get on with it? Sure, but you know you gotta deal with your feelings at some point, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. Things are just complicated, okay? Okay. But I do know a thing or two about complicated things, she said as she opened an intense security door. Unlike the rest of the building, this room looked spotless, professional, and very blue. There were screens everywhere that all irradiated the same blue light. Even the projection table had a glowing blue trim around it. Huh. I would have expected pink, not blue. Well, we originally wanted to go with pink, but our contractors messed up the order. Can't you just fix it? Oh, we could, but the large amount of paperwork we would have to fill out just makes it a pain. Uh, I guess that would make sense. Trust me, kid, unlike on Class E planets, paperwork is aplenty here. Great, I said, not hiding my sarcasm. So, I guess we could start the orientation now? Yep. Nobody will join us, as they are all on missions at the moment. She went over to a computer and pulled out a slideshow. Pulled up a slideshow on one of the screens. All right. So let's start off with introductions. We will go around the room and have everyone state their name, where they're from, and Alice saw the look on my face, the utter look of horror at the realization that I would have to sit through this pandering garbage, as she immediately started to laugh. She laughed so hard she actually fell over, rolling on the ground. Oh my goodness! You should see the look on your face! Oh god! I love messing with newbies! She eventually got herself back up and turned off the slideshow. Like we need to know who you are. We already did a thorough background check. So first things first, we are not a part of the Alliance. What? Did I stutter? Wait, did I actually stutter? I tend to do that at times. Anyways, we're not part of the Alliance. We were originally created and do receive funding from them, but we are not under their control. The reason for this is so we can take jobs that might cause greater issues if the Alliance were to directly do them. Due to this, we are allowed to accept contracts from wherever we wish, including the Empire. And the Empire is okay with this? If we help out the Alliance, then why work with us at all? Because we are a free-moving, mostly neutral asset. Because just like the Alliance, we also receive funding from the Empire. And to ensure our neutrality, we make sure we take in an equal amount of jobs from both sides. Ah, so playing the game from both angles. Pretty much. It's a straightforward way of getting filthy rich. Yeah, I could see why. However, because of our neutrality, as long as we are part of Pink Pride, we cannot claim citizenship of either nation. I can see why. It would be weird having Alliance citizens working for the Empire, and vice versa. Exactly. So we're in the same boat as pirates, though we are given free travel between both nations, along with privileges akin to diplomats. Oh, damn, that's actually kind of cool. They gotta keep us happy, or else we just find other work. Makes sense. So with all that said, in exchange for neutrality and diplomatic status, we are charged with taking high priority jobs. As I said before, we are given contracts that may cause issues if one of the big two handle them. The jobs we take care of range from extractions, assassinations, espionage, and the odd impersonation. As you can see, we only handle jobs that require a certain skill set. Though the majority of us can handle face-to-face combat, it is definitely not preferred. Well, I can certainly say I fit in there. Indeed. There are a few of us that still think you are too green. However, I'm sure in time you will prove yourself. Though I should note that you will be on probation for the next 10 missions. Probation? Yes. You will be restricted to just the base during your downtime. In addition, for your next 10 missions, you will be tagging along with another member. to make sure I'm trustworthy and committed. Bingo, little miss. Though we can't really just let anyone up and have free range. Alice pulled out a piece of paper and seemed to look it over really quickly. All right. So last up is the reason for wanting to join PP. She looked at me. Well, why'd you want to join us? Well, to put it bluntly, we do perform the same kind of work, and you guys pay well, so why not aim for something better? Oh, really now? That's it? Nothing else? Alice was giving me a look as if she knew there was more. Well, I also want to try to look for someone. They are in this line of work, so I figured if I work with the best, I would have a better chance of meeting up with him. Ah, is it an ex or something? Or some type of blood debt? No, nothing like that. I'm just looking for my dad, the old bastard Van X. Excuse me? Up until that point, Alice had a very playful tone, but as soon as I said that name, her tone and facial expression turned deadly serious. Did you say Vanix? And that he is your dad? Yeah? I said nervously. Is, uh, is there something wrong with that? No, I just didn't know he had a kid. It seemed like she was lost in thought, but suddenly came to realize something. Ah, I see, she said aloud. You see what? I said, very confused. Uh, just trying to figure out what chick he banged to get a beauty like you is all, Alice joked, returning to her playful demeanor. Seeing how things were winding down, I decided to joke around. No idea. Probably some prostitute or something. I wouldn't really know though. She ran off or died something after I was born. As I said that, Alice had a momentary look of disgust on her face, but it was too brief to really care about. Yeah, knowing him, it was probably something like that. Anyways, you said he disappeared? I thought he was on Outlier. He was, like, 19 years ago? He went on some mission and never returned. Huh. That is definitely odd, especially for him. And because of that, that's why you became a street rat? Pretty much. Didn't really have a choice since I had nothing. That damn asshole. Leaving a cute little girl like you alone, forced to fight strangers and survive. When we next see him, I'ma deck him real good. You'll have to get in line, ma'am. I have first dibs. Alice laughed. So I assume that you'll help me find him? You bet. It'll be my one good deed for the year, helping a sad little girl reunite with her daddy. I'm not sad. Plus, I do want to see that bastard again. He owes me a drink after all. Well, where do we start? I asked, feeling excited. I'll put out some feelers. For now, see I'll put out some feelers for now. See if I can find anyone who has seen him. In the meantime, you will focus on missions and getting out of probation. Ah, well, I guess that's better than what I was doing before. Yep. Now that I've covered all the important stuff, now we can get on to the fun stuff. Alice dropped a large stack of paperwork on the table. Don't worry, this is just the start. We're gonna be here for a while. So, you like pizza? She went over to a panel and pressed a few buttons. The next thing I knew, a slot in the wall opened up, revealing an excellent fresh pizza, along with a variety of drinks. Alice was not kidding about being there for a while, as it took us nearly 12 hours to complete all the paperwork. It was your standard affair, setting up direct deposit, company policy, bathroom rules, the list goes on. By the time we finished, my hands were nearly curling up my arm in pain. Since Alice then walked me through the facility, A few people hung out, played games, or cleaned their weapons, and eventually brought me to my room. Thanks to the thanks to games, as I never went to college, I knew what a college dorm looked like. Though this room was much more gray, everything from the walls to the bed was painted the same shade of gray. But unlike the rest of the base, this room was actually spotless, except for a few boxes that I immediately knew were my stuff. Alice said she had other things to handle and told me to let her know if I needed anything for my room. I looked through the boxes and saw all my stuff was there, along with a nice note from Ross, which he said he was proud of me. I was too tired to try and unpack, so once I saw that all my stuff I cared about was there, I changed into some pajamas and immediately hit the bed. Okay, first things first, I'm gonna need a new bed, I said as my body started to immediately recoil at the hospital grade bed I was laying on. However, it soon didn't matter too much, as I quickly passed the hell out. Chapter 7: The Job. Before I knew it, 6 months had passed since. Uh, do, 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 do. 6 months have passed since I joined Pink Pride. During that time, I got to know the rest of my team, as I accompanied them on missions since probation. For the most part, the missions were straightforward. Most of them were assassinations, and when Alice said they were high level, she was not kidding. We were tasked with assassinating a CEO of a rival company on one of the missions, apparently some sort of corporate acquisition. However, it seemed there was a lack of communication within the company we were trying to work for, as they sent their private security force to lay siege to the office. The man I was with, Frank, was not used to hand-to-hand combat, so I covered him as he completed our mission. By the time we were leaving, the Cyber Navy had come in and started bombing the area in an attempt to stop the skirmish from escalating. Needless to say, we charged the company 5 times the original rate and blacklisted them. It only took me a week to get off probation, as I was utterly focused on trying to prove myself. On one day, I took on 3 missions and completely forgot to sleep. By the time I was off probation, I was still eager to do more. However, Alice ordered me to take a week off. During that time, Alice would use some of the money I earned to furnish my room better, going so far as to get a really nice bed. So the moment I hit my new bed, I easily slept for the first 3 days of my week off. I spent the remaining time getting my room in order and getting to know the base. Everyone in Pink Pride seemed to be very friendly, albeit odd. There was Frank, while still a calm and composed assassin, preferred to spend his off-duty time covered in body oil while spending every waking hour playing pinball. I tried asking the others why he was like this. However, every answer I got shook me to my core, so I decided to ignore it. Another member, who was much less disturbed, was Og. They were initially a human-dog hybrid, the dog part being corgi, making them very small. However, thanks to arc-powered cybernetics, they were more machine than human, but retained their full corgi. They functioned as the go-to tech expert and handled the more tech-inclined missions. Speaking of tech-powered cute things, another member of PP was a modified friend bot. They were usually small, white trash can looking things with a screen that always showed a happy face. However, this bot was much more different. It was covered in the classic PP color scheme, all black with a pink stripe. But aside from color, this little guy was tricked out with spikes, knives, and his face was that of an ancient earth demon. It even had functional arms. In addition to all of that, the little guy even had many functional weapons, including a high-powered Gatling gun stored within it. Needless to say, the little guy was a killing machine, who the team called Johnny K. To make matters a bit odder, it seemed that someone actually installed a crude AI within Johnny, which would have been a severe crime in the Alliance. The more I got to know the little guy, the more I attached he seemed to get. Eventually, he would follow me all around the base when we weren't on missions. After a rocky first 2 weeks, things soon started to turn into a routine. Unlike the others, I didn't excel in any one skill set. I was more of a jack of all trades. So while I didn't get many ultra important missions that required particular skills, I did get enough excellent jobs to keep me satisfied. For the most part, the jobs I took kept me in either the Alliance or neutral space, with only one mission taking me to the Empire's border. The more missions I did, the more unique places I was able to see. One day I could be on a Class A planet, eating damn good food, with a fantastic beachside view. The next day I could be crawling through the shit-stained tunnels of a Class E. Needless to say, I was having the time of my life. Whenever I gave myself some downtime, I would try to hang out with Ross as much as possible. Things were still weird, but I was starting to feel more comfortable around him in a way that felt very weird. Being around him felt like the first time I could actually let my guard down. He did try to test his luck a few times, but I just told him I wasn't comfortable except my standard response was a punch to the gut. And much to my surprise, he actually understood and gave me my space. At first, Alice tried to goad me into being more intimate with Ross. Still, as she got to know me, she eventually understood where I was coming from and stopped pestering me. Hell, I actually found myself trying on nicer outfits and hairstyles at one point. As soon as I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized what I was doing and quickly went back to my usual ways. Needless to say, I was feeling new emotions that I never thought I would feel, and I was thinking things that I never would have thought about. So 6 months into my time with PP, I just got done with an intense mission that involved a city full of werewolves, and was looking forward to spending the next few days gaming with Ross. However, when I got back to base, I found an excited Alice waiting for me. It seemed that all of PP was gathered and waiting for me. So, once I went by my room to get changed and get some much-needed lunch, I made my way to the briefing room, where Alice looked like she was ready to jump for joy. "All right, folks. As you know, Miss Red here," she said, pointing to me, "has been missing her father oh so much." There were a few agreements from the group. Up until now, I have tactfully hidden who her father was, as I was waiting to hear back from my feelers, and today I got us a solid lead. Though I was tired from my extended mission, I felt a surge of energy rush through me as I shifted around, eager to hear more. Her father, of course, being the one, the only, the biggest asshole in the universe, our very own Vanex. At that moment, the rest of PP went ecstatic. They were singing the old man's praise, while also saying they would finally get their money back. Though I was excited, there was one thing that was nagging me. You said, our Vanex? What does that mean exactly? Alice laughed. Oh, right. I completely forgot to let you know. Your old man used to be one of us. Hell, it's actually his fault we got stuck with this name. What? Eh, it's a boring story. But let's just say that when your dad forgot to send in the paperwork for our original name, we were given a randomly generated name. We were stuck with that for 10 years, and it kind of grew on us, so we never changed it. Yeah, that completely sounds like something he would do. So, what's the news exactly? Al's smile went even larger. Well, I said we got a lead, but it's oh so much better than that. We know where he currently is. Now I understood her excitement, as I was too ready to burst. but I had to remain calm, as my gut was telling me there was more to it. Alright, cool. You know where he is? Which is where exactly? That's the best part. He's being held prisoner on the Alliance homeworld. On the Alliance capital world. Avenger. The excitement I was previously feeling was not utterly shattered, but now filled with absolute dread. Why do you sound so excited about that? If he's being held prisoner there, he might as well be dead. Well, normally you would have a point, but luckily for us, we have a contract for this very mission. Uh, exactly how is that a good point? And who the hell would pay to get Vanix out of prison? Much less a prison on Avenger. Me, of course. I'm using the funds I saved up to fund this very mission. Well, me, of course. I'm using the funds I've saved up to fund this whole mission. And to make things even better, you've all been approved for the job. Alice was always an excitable person, and that's what I liked about her, and what I hated as well. I was really feeling the hate part right now. Okay, so your plan is to send all of us to Avenger to rescue that bastard. You do know what we'll be up against, right? Nope. Since that place is constantly updating their security procedures, not a single soul could possibly know that. But you do have a plan, right? Also note, like I said, no one can keep up with their security changes, so any plan that would be made would be destined to fail. Okay, then what the actual fuck is your intention? I was starting to feel very irritated. Well, Miss Dread, it's straightforward. We here at Pink Pride are the universe's best group of Black Ops operatives. All of us specialize in various covert skills, allowing us to do the things that most cannot. We are so damn good that we're given the ability to be independent of both the Alliance and the Empire. So, with the absolute best under our wing, if we all work together, there's not a damn thing that can stop us. As she said this, the rest of the gang cheered. So, your plan is to send us all to Avenger without a set plan and just expect us to wing it? All because we are the best the universe has? Exactly! I'm glad you're up to speed. And we're doing this perilous operation just to save that old bastard? Bingo! The look of sheer joy on her face was exhausting. I knew fighting was an uphill battle. Fine, I'm in. When do we start? Well, tomorrow actually. We'll be split into 3 teams. Team A will try to cause a large enough distraction. Team B will work their magic and disable the security. Meanwhile, the team you and I will be on will be reaching the area Vanix is in and extract him. Other than that loose plan, it's up to everyone to figure it out from there. You realize how fucking dumb that is, right? I said. Frank, who had recently covered himself in oil, patted me on the shoulder. Boy, ye lass, ain't the first crazy mission we went on. You can't live without risking your bomb, he said in a solid and terrifying farming colony accent. It seemed as if I chose the wrong day to wear a tank top, as Frank's oil started to drip all over me. It was clear now that everyone was on board with his plan, and I was freaking tired. Alright, fine. Just know that I'm still saying this is risky as hell. I was the first out of the room as I quickly made my way to my room. As excited I was to see Vanix again, the risk seemed way too significant. Though it's only been 6 months, everyone here has really grown on me, and this mission felt way too poorly thought out and way too dangerous. But then again, Alice did have a great point. These were the best Spec Op agents in the universe. If they couldn't break someone out of the Avenger prison, Who the hell could? I continued to think about the risks of the mission throughout the night until the next morning. Until the next thing I knew, I could hear commotion outside my room, and it was clear that it was almost time to start the mission. Not exactly sure what to expect from this mission, I decided to bring most of my gear, just in case. I grabbed my pistols, my knives, my axe rifle, and lastly, my sword. While I rarely use the damn thing, as swords just didn't feel right, I still like to take it with me on missions, especially tough ones. Thanks. That's because it was once Vanex's, and it was one of the few things he actually left for me. As far as I could tell, the thing was a standard sword from Earth's Middle Ages, and was practically useless now. Regardless, I slung it over my shoulder, grabbed a duffel full of various gadgets, and made my way to the shuttles. Just as just as there were 3 teams, there were 3 shuttles. I was the last team. I was the last Team C to board, so I got into the main compartment after I stowed my equipment and took a seat. Team C was the smallest of the teams. Yes, it is. Team C was the smallest of the teams, consisting of 5 members. Those members being myself, Alice, Frank, Og, and Johnny K. Frank was an expert at slipping by places undetected, while Og was going to be our go-to tech dog, and Johnny was going to be our oh shit wild card if things went to hell. Though I was still wary of seeing this team, I felt slightly more confident in this plan. The transport took off, and we were immediately uploaded into ArcNet. Traversing using this method only took a few minutes, allowing us to take in the sight of the Arc data system. It looked as if we were swimming through a harsh river of red as electrical currents arced and flared violently. As all that protected us, well, everyone else, that is, from instant incineration, was a thin layer of plastic that coated the exterior of the transport. Every time I came through ArcNet, I was always tempted to venture out into the stream just to see what would happen. My gut tells me I would be fine, save for the vacuum of space. However, every logical part of my brain told me that even if I could survive, it would still be a stupid fucking idea. But then again, I always had really dumb ideas like that. Like anytime I saw boiling magma, I really felt like tasting it, even though I knew it would burn the fuck out of me. As I continued down this path of dangerous things to taste, we eventually made our way out of ArcNet and appeared near Avenger. Now, Avenger is not like any other Alliance planet, including Class A planets. Honestly, I think it should be ranked as a Class SS planet for how freaking rich and pretentious its people are. For starters, visitation is minimal. Unlike any other planet in the Alliance, where travel is open but living is restricted, you would require a special one-time pass if you wanted to visit Avenger. These passes would be given out by those on Avenger, mainly to honored guests, potential new residents, and business matters. And trying to get a pass from someone is hard as hell, as they are super mega elite who literally own entire galaxies. Now, that's not to say that they don't have servants or workers. However, they can't even be classified as human anymore, as they've been lobotomized to be the ideal slave. Despite the difficulty of getting onto Avenger, getting on the planet was simple if you knew the right people, and those people owed you. Apparently, during Alice's youth, she married a significant CEO, but after a bout of mutual cheating, the two called it quits. Now, Alice uses the incriminating information she has on the CEO to extort them, getting us the access we need. While I never actually visited Avenger before, I always had my assumptions about it, since it was the most important planet in the Alliance. And the most important people live there. I always assumed it would be a sprawling metropolis full of tall, golden buildings, where it was always sunset, and the bars were always open. However, it would have seemed I was entirely wrong. Well, not entirely wrong. The first thing to note was that it was technically not a planet, at least not the standard idea of one. It was shaped more like a ring, with a device that simulated the moon and sun in the center. The topography looked much like Earth's used to, though consistent. It seemed to consist of mainly of rolling green fields, snow-capped mountains, large deep oceans, and dense forests. It was clear by looking at it that humans constructed it, as everything looked too perfect. And as we made our descent, it was clear that there were no massive towers or ultra luxurious buildings. Instead, carefully placed within the ring's landscape, cozy looking homes were modest in nature. Even if one had all the money in the world, going in nature and breathing was still a necessity, which made our approach towards one of the snowy mountains where I saw some flickering route lights. According to Alice, this was the majority of the important government buildings here, and though they were hard to see from further away, the closer we got to the mountains, it was clear the mountains themselves were the buildings, just shaped to resemble mountains. We circled around the mountains as Alice tried to look for a decent place to park. With feet finally on the highly prized ground, it was immediately apparent that this place was engineered to be perfect. There was little to no humidity in the air, while the temperature was at the sweet spot between hot and cold. Even breathing the air felt crisp and clean, entirely unlike Outlier's air. This mountain was a combination of many different government facilities. We needed to get our bearings and see where the prison was located. Luckily for us, there was a convenient map near the parking area. Once we figured out where we were, we got in touch with the other teams, who were in position. We soon made our way through the facility, past all the CEOs and lobotomized servants, until we reached the restricted part of the mountain. This part contained military facilities, research facilities, and most importantly, the prison facilities. If things went south, or, well, getting out of here would be kind of a challenge, as the exits are limited by design. Pass or fail, we were going to be in for a hard time. Okay. Chapter 8 Prison Break. Just as I expected, this was not going to be a simple job. We could slip into the restricted area no problem. Alice used her status as a prior Alliance commander to get the 5 of us in. However, she was only allowed to access military installations in only certain facilities in those installations. Essentially, we were free to walk around and look at all the buildings hidden within the mountain. Still, we could only go inside the military exchange store. We could view the prison, which was a large sphere surrounded by 4 large currents of arc energy, with no way to reach it. And, unfortunately for us, this also functioned as a barrier. Og was able to link into a terminal and learn that the arc currents would be deactivated twice a day. The spear would be lowered to allow for a change of staff and to in-process new prisoners. I floated the idea of posing as workers to get inside. However, this facility was entirely run by machines, thanks to another security feature, arc barriers, that would sweep through any non-prison cell to ensure that no other organic life was inside. Now, while Johnny and I would be fine, the others would be incinerated if we attempted that. Essentially, there would be no good way to get us all in. That's to say, until I had a very devilish idea. Hey, Og. Alice. How about instead of trying to break into the prison, how about we break the prison itself? Both of them looked at me in confusion. More dread. Explain. Woof, Og said. Well, while we're trying to be all sneaky and shit, we aren't afraid to cause a lot of noise, right? Yeah? Alice said, with understandable worry in her voice. Well, Since those large arc beams are preventing us from getting inside, how about we use them to our advantage? Everyone still looked very confused. Okay, okay. We find out wherever the controls are for those large ass beams, and we shut them down. If we do that, Og chimed in, we would cause a change in the magnetic field. Alice also seemed to realize what I was getting at. And if we do that, it will make the field go crazy, flinging the prison, which will hopefully break both it and knock a decent sized hole in this dumb mountain. Johnny bumped my leg. Miss Doombringer, wouldn't that kill all meat sacks inside? Aren't we trying to save a damn meat sack? Yeah, and a lot of them will die. But such a small thing won't kill Vanix. He's just a little bit too stubborn to die. Yeah, Johnny, I've seen the guy survive a literal moon crashing down on him. Being side a Doom pinball is nothing to him. Trying to figure out a good voice for Johnny. Understood. Rescinding concern. Just point me to the meat sacks, Miss Doombringer, the adorable little murdered bot said. Will do, buddy, I said, patting it on the head. Though, with this change of plans, when we are in place, things are going to get loud and crazy. Yep, I'm letting the other teams know. Once we turn off the beam, they will work their magic, Alice said as she focused on sending messages through her internal implant. All right, let's get this party started, I exclaimed, feeling slightly better about our odds. Og was able to find us a way to one of the beam control areas, and in a decently guarded area. They had a few emote sense cameras, and a handful of lobotomized guards, and a dozen armed combat bots. The setting was in our favor, as the path to the control area was a maze of interconnected hallways and rooms. Fred and I were on point, as Og was working mid-guard, providing us with intel as he gathered from all nearby sources. Meanwhile, Alice and Johnny were working rearguard, ready to unleash hell. As Frank and I worked together in the past, he was aware of my unique ability, and we developed a particular strategy around it. We would scope out a given area. If there was any architect nearby, I would go up and disable whatever I could, as Frank covered me, silently taking out any potential witnesses. If there was an architect, the two of us would split up, eliminate any threats in our way, and meet back up when the coast was clear. The lobotomized guards were not the brightest or the fastest to make things even better for us. So, even if we managed to slip up, we still had a window to recover without blowing the mission. We approached the first man checkpoint. There were 2 emote sense cameras, and 1 guard, and 3 combat mechs on standby. Og informed us that as long as the cameras didn't detect unauthorized individuals, and if the guard did not hit the panic button, the combat mechs would not activate. Without a spoken word, Frank and I got to work. I waited for a moment when the guard was looking elsewhere, climbed up to where the camera was at, and severed the power cable, causing it to shut down. Frank snaked his way into the guard room with the camera out, and Frank snaked his way into the guard room with the camera out and quickly appeared behind the guard. Just as the guard looked back at me, nanowire was wrapped around his neck, flaring red. The wire sliced cleanly through the guard's neck, rapidly cauterizing the area, preventing any blood from spilling. It was a harsh way to go, but quiet, allowing one to hide murder easier. Just as we were about to leave, Og went over to the bots and started to tinker with them. He reprogrammed them and synced them to Johnny, allowing the small bot to effectively control an army. As we continued our way through the hallways, we encountered similar layouts like the first. We disabled the cameras, killed the guards, took over the bots. When we reached the final checkpoints, most guards were dead, and Johnny had a small army to fight. However, there was a significant issue on our way. Sitting in front of the door to the control room was a 7-foot tall human operated mech. It was augmented to sentinel duty, so enhanced visual equipment, arc scanners, infrared scanners, and a few very large, powerful guns. Obviously, our little tricks wouldn't work on that, as I couldn't fool actual human eyes. And just like before, there was a guard, an emote sense camera, and a few inactive bots. We took note of everything and reported back to the others. Looks like a tricky situation, Alice whispered in deep thought. Og did not speak, as they had no volume control. However, they did nod. We could just force our way in. Couldn't we just force our way in? Surely the meat sacks couldn't stop us, Johnny said. Yeah, we are at our destination. Anyways, things will get loud after we drop the spear, so why not start the party a bit sooner? I recommended it. That could work. However, we don't want to run the risk of a lockdown. We don't know the security protocols or what happens if there is a breach. For all we know, we might make things harder for ourselves, Al said calmly. Plus, if we go in there guns blazing, the nearby bots will be active, making the fight a little bit more difficult. So what then? Well, Alice said, putting a few finishing pieces on whatever she was cooking up. You guys ever hear that old Earth story? The one of the Trojan horse? I vaguely knew what it was, and so did the others, except for Johnny, who thought they were talking about the birth control company. Basically, we're going to send in something that seems friendly. In reality, it's a trap that will spring when the time is right. Alright, and what will be our horse? I said. Well, one of the bots Johnny has control over, of course. Using my own minions as bait, Johnny added. I fully support this plan and will send my child to glorious death. We will attach this low-yield arc grenade onto the bot. I'll temporarily disable temporarily disable the mech and its systems, giving us a chance to strike. From there, Mordred takes out the camera, Frank kills the guard, and Og and I deal with the mech. That's a really good plan, you sweet miss. No more needed to be said. Johnny activated one of the bots and brought it over to us. Alice attached a remote arc grenade to it, and the rest of us got into position. The distinct sound of a bot's feet clinking on the ground echoed through the primarily quiet hallways. The bot turned the corner and was in sight of its target, and as we expected, the pilot did not think anything of a lone bot and allowed it to continue walking towards it. And just as planned, the grenade went off, causing the mech to hunch over, inactive. The guard was too enthralled with what was going on, allowing me to disable the camera with no issue. And just as the guard was about to press the panic button, Frank was already snuffing what little lights they had. And as we were doing this, Og and Alice dashed over to the mech, where Og started to bypass the mech security and open the hatch, where there was a tiny woman inside the mech who seemed very scared as to what was going on. However, that did not last for long, as Alex quickly placed 3 rounds inside her skull. With all threats taken care of, we were clear to enter the room. Inside the control room, there was a single, bored-looking scientist-type person. They were busy reading a book and had the expression they would rather be anywhere else. As we barged our way in, the bored man looked startled by the odd host of characters, but continued reading his book. This was a clear example of what happens when most fear is taken away from society. When an apparent threat is in front of you, you don't even know it's a threat. Og and I went over to a whole system of terminals where Og jacked himself in. The scientist looked up and seemed ready to say something when Alice went over and started to sweet-talk him. One of the unwritten codes of pink pride was not to kill those who don't pose a threat, especially if they were unarmed. And seeing as how the scientist didn't see us as a threat, we didn't see him as one either. Og eventually found the correct commands to the beam control and asked for permissions to deactivate them. I called up the other team leaders and told them to start their plans. There were immediate explosions that rocked the mountain, which was Ogg's signal to deactivate the two beams. Now, with one side being pushed by arc, while the other was not, the spear was immediately launched from its position, flying through the air like a bullet. Anything that was in its path was doomed, as it smashed through the vehicles and buildings alike. However, there was only one major damn issue, and that was the fact that the deadly projectile was heading our way. When I realized this, I let everyone else know, and we all immediately started to book it out of there. We raced down the hallways, which were now swarming with warring combat bot factions. It seemed that Johnny's bots were still under control, and we were keeping the heat off of us. But we did not have time to figure out which bots were friendly, so I commanded Johnny to gun them all down, which he was all too happy to do. A giant Gatling gun came out of this small murder trash can, which started to tear through the bots, friend and foe alike. As we ran over to the bot graveyard, the area began to violently shake as the walls and ceiling began to rip apart. Behind us, the spear was colliding with the building we were in, located right on the mountain's edge. It was clear that running any more would not do us any good, so we gathered around Og, who deployed a shield to cover us from falling debris. My ears were ringing from the explosive sounds of metal colliding and tearing into each other, as sirens began to flare. The shaking only seemed to get worse as the ground beneath us started to break away. We went into freefall, but only for a moment, as Og deployed a grappling device to keep us from falling to our deaths. Eventually, the shaking stopped and the sounds of destruction started to die down. Once we thought it was clear, Og slowly lowered us to wherever was solid enough below us and let us free. The scene of destruction was terrific, as a large gaping hole was now scarred into the mountain. The building that we were in was just gone, with only fragments remaining, and much to my surprise, the spear prison was right in front of us, cracked open like an egg. Combat drones were circling the split prison as if they were vultures. As the prisoners inside who survived the ordeal started to run for their lives, the sound of fighting in the distance seemed to intensify, essentially making this mountain a war zone. We climbed down the side of a mountain and pushed our way into the prison. The Alliance response was severely fragmented, as response teams were unaware what threat to deal with first. Anyone that did get in our way seemed absolutely confused by our presence, allowing for us to cut them down. As we got to the prison, the drones went from simply circling it to actively gunning down any prisoners escaping. Og did manage to get the schematics of the prison and sent them over to Alice and me, as we knew what cell Vanix would be in. Then, placing Johnny on his shoulder, the two found a good position and started to fight off the drones, allowing us to get into the prison. Inside the prison was utter chaos. Fires were breaking out everywhere, as dead bodies and disabled bots littered the floor. We made our way through the prison, taking out anything in our way, prisoner or Alliance alike. Explosions would cause the prison to rock, as the battle seemed to just intensify outside. We started to call our pilot and told them to be on standby to evac us. And soon, we were at the door that led to the high-priority cells. There were only 5 in this area, but they kept the more critical or deadly There were only 5 in this area, where they kept the most critical or deadly prisoners. Since we didn't have Og with us, we had to rely on good old explosives to blast open the door. We made our way inside, and were met with 5 large combat bots, all set to shoot on sight. The three where Alice and I started to... The 3 of us took cover as gunfire filled the space between us. It was clear we couldn't outsmart the bots this time, and we had to outright fight them. We waited for a pause in the gunfire, where Alice and I started to return the favor. She was using a rifle that was connected to her implants, allowing for more accurate aim. In contrast, I was using my axe rifle loaded with anti-armor rounds. Our plan was not to take them out all at once, but make a good distraction for Frank to slip into the room unnoticed. However, Alice and I did manage to take out one bot each, leaving only three. Frank slithered his way behind the remaining bots, where he quickly took one out, making the other two focus on him. They started to open fire, getting a few good hits on Frank, but with the opening made, Alice and I charged in. Alice literally ripped the bot in half with her bare hands as I lodged my axe deep within the bot's thick armor. With the area clear, I looked to see if everyone was alright. Alice was excellent, though she did get a few graze wounds. Frank, however, was worse off than I initially thought. His entire stomach was exposed as vital organs started to spill out onto the ground. But while he did remain conscious, he was losing blood quickly. Alice rushed over to his side and began providing first aid. However, she could only do so much, as Metagel would not be enough to heal him. "Get that old bastard and let's get out of here," she yelled, as she was elbow deep in Frank's blood. I looked around quickly and found the cell that was marked Vanix. Unlike the other prisoners, where they had standard metal doors, this prison utilized arc barriers, which was effective, as if someone tried to leave their cell, they would be killed. But it seemed that this area had its own power source, separate from the rest of the prison. I tried looking for some sort of power source, but could not find anything, as explosions continued to rock the prison. I knew I didn't have time. Throwing all reason aside, I stepped within the deadly red barrier. As I figured, I was completely fine. This wasn't the first time I passed through one of these deadly barriers, but this was the first time I actually stayed within one. And it felt too strange. I didn't feel any pain, but I did feel something. It was as if I was breathing something in, but not exhaling anything. And yet, what I inhaled just seemed to vanish into nothingness. This feeling only got stronger as I started to see the barrier flare up around me. It would seem that it was drawing more and more power to sustain itself. I looked around at the other barriers and saw that they were starting to flicker as they lost power. Then, with a loud popping sound, the barriers faded away as the smell of burnt electronics filled the air. Though I wasn't in pain, I felt very weird and fragile. But I was determined to get Vanix and to get off this damn ring. As I stumbled forwards towards Vanix, who seemed either sleeping or dead or unconscious, I felt a hand grip on my shoulder. For a brief moment, I felt a harsh chill as a shadow scurried around the corner of my vision. Caught off guard as a primal fear took hold, I turned to look at who it was that grabbed me, only to see Frank. He seemed to have a cruel smile on his face, while an odd golden shimmer was in his eyes. I started to feel a sharp pain in my back, but it soon stopped. Something was grabbing Frank's head, and that something was a giant hand. The hand started to apply more and more pressure, causing Frank's face to swell up. His eyes started to bulge, as the veins in his neck were becoming more and more visible. I started to hear the chilling sound of bones snapping as brain matter started to squeeze in on itself. And just as his eyes started to burst like grapes, the hand shoved Frank's head into the ground, causing it to shatter against the metal floor. I looked at who the hand belonged to and was shocked. A very tall man wearing plate armor was standing before me, striking a menacing but heroic pose. "Tyrus?" I said, trying to piece things together. Last chapter for the day. Chapter 8.5. The Crusader's Virtue. To say that I was glad Lady Mordred was safe was relieving, to say the least. Though I do not have any solid evidence, all the signs point to her being more than she believes. And if she is who I think she is, then I will defend her until my dying breath. Even if that means I must betray the Empire and Arthur, who gave me so much. My failures of the past will not be made again. Whatever fate has in store for that girl, I will ensure she sees it safe to live a happy life. A life that her parents were robbed of so long ago. After leaving the room where an injured Mordred resided, I approached the Alliance lapdogs, who went through much trouble to bring me here. For their safety, they attempted to place me in restraints. However, they did not have any large enough. As a sign of goodwill, and to show my willingness to cooperate, I put an oath of peace upon myself. Under this oath, I would be unable to attack or retaliate against the ones that had me under captivity, as long as it remained under the Alliance control. In addition, I also dismissed my weapon and armor, returning them to God for the time being. Now unarmed and under oath, the Alliance watchdogs were content. They explained to me that I was to be taken to the Alliance homeworld, where I would be placed into captivity for the time being. Their intention was to understand the events that occurred on Outlier, and potentially more. They refused to elaborate more, as they were rightfully worried about Imperial spies. Gonna take a little sippy sip. That water tastes weird. Okay. That is definitely a weird water taste. Let's wash it down with more water. Yep, definitely a weird water taste. The Alliance watchdogs made sure to limit my senses to the best of their abilities, to protect the secrets of their homeworld. They placed me into a dark room, which was constantly rotating in some attempt to make me lose my sense of direction. However, as this might work on other beings, those that follow the path to the light always know which direction our Lord's light lies. The journey did not take us long, as the Alliance has much faster method of travel than we do. Once it seemed like we landed, I began to feel the room I was in start to move, as if it were being transferred somewhere. Though my sense of direction was diminished, at one point I could tell we were going in an upward direction. I can guess that a few hours later, the room that I was in finally opened, revealing a small prison cell. As I was already this far, I willingly stepped into the cell, where the box that contained me was taken away. A red barrier activated the cell's doorway. It was an arc barrier, strong enough to slay even me if I was not careful. It could be possible for me to get past it, but I would need to cast a high-level miracle to overload the system. However, that would require time, which I doubt the guards here would appreciate. I also had no intention of attempting to break out, at least for now. I expected someone to come and speak to me shortly after I arrived, but minutes soon turned to hours, and it became clear that the Alliance was willing to play the long game. Comparatively, I would live many times over the short lifespans. Comparatively, I would live many times over the short lifespans of those in the Alliance. So, in my view, I was already winning. As it seemed I had time, I decided to observe what little there was to observe. Outside the cell were 4 other cells, all of which had the same layout. They had a single bed, a toilet, a desk, and a chair. However, it seemed as if only one other cell was actually being used. I tried to look at the other inmate. However, it seemed as if they were asleep. I did not wish to bother them, as I was just about to shift my focus to my cell. I noticed a sign over the other inmate's cell. It was a sign that read, "Prisoner, Vannex." Vannex, I said aloud, as a mix of fear and anger started to swell inside. My blood began to boil, as I instinctively started to crack my knuckles. The devil himself was before me, the enemy to all life, who will bring ruin to the universe itself. It was It was that it was the thing that cursed Arthur and ruined Lady Rhaena's life. As a member of the Emperor's Royal Guard, it was our sworn duty to serve our Emperor and assist bringing forth the destruction of the devil known as Vanix. Instinctively, I started a chant that would bring forth mighty holy flames to destroy the barrier, along with the devil before me. But, even though the rage within myself was intense, something was holding me back. I stopped chanting, tearing my gaze away from the devil, and instead stared intensely at the toilet. I can't. Not until she gets to see him again, I whispered to myself. I was referring to Lady Rhaena. Mordred. Oh, I was referring to Lady Mordred. She mentioned that Vanix was her father, and it was her desire to see him. Though it was my sworn duty to kill him, my loyalty to her overcame that. As long as I averted my gaze from him, I could keep my cool. I was unsure how much time had passed, but my gut told me that I had been here for 3 weeks. During the time, nobody or machine came into the cell. I was not given any food, and the devil did not stir. My best guess was that the Alliance dogs were trying to weaken me by depriving me of sustenance. Unfortunately, Crusaders would be able to go months without food or water through holy blessings. If we were on a pretty intense mission. As much as I tried to resist, looking at the devil, their lack of movement was starting to bother me. I couldn't get a closer look. However, I could tell that it was alive at least, as their body moved in a slow, rhythmic fashion, signaling that it was at least breathing. As more time passed, my captors finally came in to pay me a visit. At first, a group of orange hazardous material suit dogs came in to observe me, probably seeing if I was a threat or possibly contagious. At least 3 times this group would come in and observe me, then leave without saying a word. Finally, after a 4th inspection, a bald person in a black 3-piece suit came to see me. They were entirely featureless, almost as if they were blank dolls. In their hands was a large set of handcuffs, large enough to fit even me. They held it in front of them and let go, but instead of falling to the ground, the binds would just float there. The person would then pull out a small remote control. After pressing some buttons, the binds would go through the barrier and stop before me, opening themselves. Words did not need to be said, nor were they. I just placed my hands into the binds, which snapped shut. The bald individual started to observe me, along with other areas of my cell. Once they were satisfied, they pressed a button on the remote, causing the barrier to dissipate. They then gestured for me to follow them, which I obeyed. The hallways were a dull, steel color, and had machines going back and forth, taking care of the Alliance dogs' whims. The only thing that stood out about the hallways were the moving arc barriers that rode on tracks throughout the prison. As one of these barriers approached us, they would quickly shut off as they passed over us, then turn back on once it was at a safe distance. My best guess was that this dog had something that told the prison it was allowed to be here, which disabled the barriers for a brief moment. Regardless, it was an effective system to keep prisoners from escaping. However, the power needed for such a system must be excellent. The Alliance dog led me into a room with the same dull steel color but had a white desk and 2 chairs directly in the middle. Once again, words did not need to be said, as I suspected the dog could not speak, and I went to take a seat. The dog checked to make sure I was sitting and left the room. I wasn't left waiting long, though, as the dog came back with another person with it. Unlike the bald doll, this Alliance dog actually had features to them. It was a young-looking woman, also in a black suit. She had amber hair, which was tied up in a ponytail. Her face was cold and stern, and she looked at me through her black glasses. She said something to the doll, who left shortly after. The woman then came into the room, placed a stack of paper onto the table, and took a seat. It was clear as she stared at me with her cold blue eyes, which she was trying to intimidate me in some form. I knew they did things differently in the Alliance. However, I never expected them to be so soft. I returned her cold look, and I proceeded to talk. Is all you Alliance dogs do just stare at your prisoners? I hope you know that I have stared down deadly monsters much more terrifying than you. The woman's face did not twitch. Oh, trust me, Mr. William. I am well aware of your record. And for the record, I do not expect you to find my stare terrifying. And for the record, I do expect you to find my stare terrifying after our time together. Mr. William. So, that's how the Alliance was going to act. All right. Let's see how this turns out. I welcome any attempt, though you must know, Crusaders. The woman cut me off. Yes, we are well aware of the training you went through, and we have our methods on how to instill fear even into even the most devout religious men. Why is it you brought me here? That should be rather obvious, Mr. William. We are curious as to what exactly occurred on Outlier, and the specifics on the traders. My face twitched, when the woman seemed to notice. Well, which the woman seemed to notice. I see. I figured that would be straightforward. They were traitors. I killed them in accordance with my lord's will. As far as I see it, this is Imperial business. So why is the Alliance butting in? Because, Mr. William, there have been reports of individuals becoming heretics. Well, while there have been reports of individuals becoming heretics, those are normally isolated cases and are resolved quickly. However, a whole unit of soldiers, along with their high-ranking commander, all turning heretic, going so far as to declaring war on the empire they once served, by all accounts, this event is entirely unprecedented. If cracks are starting to form in the empire, the Alliance must know. So you can exploit the turbulence, gain in some effort to gain the upper hand? Well, that is an uncouth way of stating it. Yes. We will take any advantage we can get, and will do anything to achieve results. I see. So you truly are dogs. Setting aside your insults, can we please get to the matter at hand? I do not want to be here all day, although I am willing to adjust if needed. I sighed an aggressive sigh. Once again, you should know everything. They turned traitors. I was deployed to deal with them, which I did. What more do you desire? Were you to tell me the truth, Mr. William? We are well aware that the Empire did not send you to Outlier. In fact, you were supposed to be attending a change of command ceremony 15,000 light years away. There was a change of plans. My skill set was required to deal with the threat. You know you're a terrible liar, right, Mr. William? According to our reports, days before he turned, Orthus sent you a secured message, requesting that you come to Outlier as soon as you could, and being the honorable warrior and friend you were, left your post to go to him. Then, as you arrived, the Empire became aware that they have turned. She paused, clearly gauging my reaction. I had nothing to say, as what she was saying was the truth. Orthus did send me a message, saying his situation. Oh, okay, I have to refine where I was. Um, Okay. Let's see. Change command. Requesting that you come to Outlier as soon as you could, and being the honorable warrior and friend you were, left your position to go to him. Then, as you arrived, the Empire became aware that they have turned. She took a pause, clearly gauging my reaction. I had nothing to say, as what she was saying was the truth. Orthus did send me a message, saying that his situation was dire. I dropped everything to go to him, fearing the worst. When I arrived, I was met with hostility. As you got near the outpost, the traitor soldiers started to open fire on you, which you quickly incapacitated. Which begs the question, why didn't you kill them? I did not know the situation. All that I knew was that those that that I referred to as allies were attacking me, which might have been caused by an external source. So instead of killing them, I knocked them out until I had answers. I see. How very noble of you. Though that does not look too good for you. I would not expect an Alliance dog to understand loyalty and brotherhood. We do not turn on our allies so easily. I would guess not. Anyways, once you got to the outpost, you continued to incapacitate the heretics until you reached the commander's office, where you encountered Orthus. It's at that moment when Emperor Artorius declared them traitors and signaled to his top warriors and generals about this turn, which you were one of. From there, you and Orthus started to fight, and it would appear that he was the aggressor. The battle between you two lasted for a few days until the Empire did something unexpected. They reached out to us and requested we take out the traitors. However, requested that we be discreet about it. Do you know why this is odd? I grunted. That we took time to talk to dogs? Funny. However, incorrect. The odd thing was, why didn't Artorius and your god just smite the heretics? Surely they did not actually care about the life of Outlier, because we surely do not. So, why bother having their sworn enemy assist in dealing with their own traitors? Unless there's something on Outlier, or they knew you were there and took pity. Though I'm more inclined to believe the former, as the Empire made no mention of one of their own during the negotiations. That's one theory. I am a warrior, not some politician. I just go where I am told and follow orders. Anything beyond that is not my business, and any internal politics between the Alliance and Empire is none of my concern. I see. Well, I am hoping you'll be more cooperative in the future. Regardless, your battle with Orthus lasted until the mercenary strike force launched their assault. Our agents knew that you got the upper hand over Orthus, but hesitated to deliver the final strike. However, as the two of you began to talk, our agent was terminated by that uncouth woman. Lady Mordred, I said, in evident anger in my tone. I will allow you to insult me all you wish. However, I will not allow you to insult my lady. The woman wrote some things down. I see. Anyways, since our agent was terminated by Miss Mordred, we could not hear the specifics about your conversation or the events leading to Miss Mordred being placed in critical condition. According to what you told the evacuation team after you killed Orthus, Miss Mordred entered the room, and as the outpost was under assault, the priests keeping the building intact were dead. The building began to collapse, causing debris to fall on Miss Mordred, which you barely saved her from. Though in this process, you used too much strength and ended up severely hurting her. While Miss Mordred's injuries do support this story, I frankly do not believe it. So, Mr. William, I want you to tell me what you and Orthus spoke of, and what happened to Miss Mordred. There is nothing more I to say. Once I downed Orthus, I requested that. After I downed Orthus, he requested I pray for him, which I did. I then separated his head from his body, as per my obligation to my lord. What happened next is exactly how I explained it to the evacuation team. I see, the woman said, as she started to gather documents that were neatly placed on the table. It is clear that you will not make this a simple process. So I expect you will know me well and learn to fear me until you decide to tell us the truth. For now, I must take my leave. With her documents gathered, she got up and made her way to the door. Good luck, you damn dog. I will not break, especially to the likes of you. The woman turned towards me, though not with her usual cold face, instead replaced by a sadistic smile. Oh, trust me, Mr. William, you will. Or we might extend our reach. And with that, she took her leave. The bald doll came back into the room and escorted me back to my cell. I was surprised to see a metal tray along with a glass of water waiting for me. The doll removed the restraints and went on its way, leaving me to my bland meal. However, it was edible, and I did not have any other options. Once I finished, a small white machine came into my cell and collected the tray and glass. Though I detested the Alliance, they did admittedly have helpful gadgets. My time in the prison soon turned from dull to highly tedious. I assumed that I was taken from my cell once a day and brought into the room where I was interrogated. The woman was there, sometimes alone, sometimes with a small team. Either way, the results were the same. They would attempt to torture me in a vain attempt to make me break. They would not cause any harm in the first dozen sessions, as their tools broke against my skin. When their tools failed, they tried to shake my faith, which resulted in an embarrassing failure. But eventually, they did manage to find the right tools to cause me harm, and they started their pathetic games. They started off tiny, like breaking my fingers and cutting me. However, they soon escalate to slowly peeling my skin back, inserting acid-laced larvae into my exposed skin. I will not lie and say that it did not hurt, but I would not break, no matter how hard they tried. What I could guess was that 6 months had passed since I was brought to this prison, and every day was met with a new kind of hell. No matter how bad things got, my resolve held firm. One day, after a relatively harsh session, the woman sat me down, seemingly intending to talk. However, no words were exchanged. All she did was place a photograph on the table. It was a photo of a young woman with scarlet red eyes and snow-white hair. My reaction was immediately violent, as I stood up with the full intention of turning the woman into fine paste. However, I was unable to touch her, as my oath forbade me from doing so. The woman was well aware of this, as she picked up the photo and started to make her way out. You will have one more chance, Mr. William. If you disappoint me, we will see what she knows, and we will not be as kind to her as we have you. And with that, she left, leaving me alone in the room. When the doll arrived, the table and chairs were utterly smashed, fragments scattered across the room. I followed the doll back to my cell, and as usual, a pathetic meal was waiting for me. As the doll started to leave, I picked up the tray and threw it at a nearby wall, causing the tray to embed itself entirely within it. The doll was unfazed and continued its way out of the room, leaving me alone with Vanix. I looked over to him, with some hope he was awake. Hey, devil. I mean, Vanix. Your daughter, Lady Mordred, is in severe danger. If we do not get out of here soon, they will go after her, and I fear what they will do to her. Though I regret saying this, I need your help. Please. We cannot fail her. However, Vanex did not stir. Whatever was going on with him, it seemed to be intense. My chest started to feel tight as a wave of emotion started to wash over me. There was nothing I could do except tell the Alliance what I knew. I would be betraying my lord, but it was to keep Lady Mordred safe. I would pay any price. I rested my head, intending to pray for forgiveness for my upcoming sin. However, the entire room lurched forward the next moment, causing me to fly towards the arc barrier. I was too strong to be instantly killed by it. However, it did cause me intense pain, making me black out. During my next moment of consciousness, I saw I was on the other side of the cell as I smashed against the wall, making me black out once more. When I awoke for the second time, it seemed as if the cell stopped moving, as the sounds of explosions echoed in the distance. I was unsure what just happened. All I knew was that it did not bode well. I tried to get myself onto my feet. However, the arc barrier did quite a number on me. Needing to quickly recover, I started to chant various healing miracles to gather my strength. By the time I was back on my feet, I noticed the barrier to my cell was down, along with Vanex's. And in the doorway to Vanex's cell was a tiny woman, with snow-white hair, armed with pistols, daggers, axe in hand, and a sword on her back. I immediately knew it was Lady Mordred, and I was ready to speak up. However, I noticed something quickly approaching her. I shifted my focus to a quick-moving, snake-like man who was nearing Lady Mordred as if she were prey. I started moving and chanting without thinking. Before I knew it, I was in full plate armor, charging towards the snake, who now held a dagger to Lady Mordred's back. I grabbed the snake's skull and slowly started to crush it. I wanted to make this curse suffer before it died. All as the all too familiar feeling of bone snapping in my hand, more rage started to swell within me, causing me to smash the snake's skull into the ground, causing a mist of blood and brain matter to fill the air. Lady Mordred turned around, looking somewhat frightened. Tyrus? She said in an amazed tone. And that's where we're ending for the day. Yeah. Things are going to start picking up very quickly, and things are going to get kind of wild kind of quickly. But, our precious boy Tyrus is reunited with Mordred, and Mordred is about to see her good old, dear old, awesome, cool Pogger's dad, me, who, we're just taking a very long nap. Don't worry about it. Nothing bad's gonna happen. Haha, Sav. No bonks in storytime mode. You thought you could bonk me? You really thought so? You fool. You absolute buffoon. You hold no power here, Sav. But, yeah, that's it for the story. I hope you all enjoyed. We'll be back next week for more. So, until then, I hope you all take very much care. Tune in tomorrow for Shadow the Hedgehog. For some serious, high-powered edge. And, yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Like always, I will be uploading this to YouTube, and putting it to the playlist so you can watch it and enjoy it there. And yeah, make sure you check Twitter to see when the next reading stream is. And until next time, everyone, take very much care.